My girlfriend announced, "I am finally pregnant. We are having the perfect little family you always wanted, my love." She said this at her birthday party, surrounded by our friends. I smiled, knowing I'm medically sterile. I waited for the applause to die down before I played her voicemail for my best friend. I, 34, male, had been with my girlfriend, Faye, 32, for 5 years. Our life in Denver, Colorado was, I thought, idyllic. I was a geologist for an environmental consulting firm, a job I loved that paid a comfortable $140,000 a year. She was a yoga instructor with a dedicated following, earning around $60,000. We lived in a charming bungalow in the Highlands, spent our weekends hiking in the Rockies, and had a close, knit group of friends, the center of which was my best friend since childhood, Cole. The only thing missing, the one thing I wanted more than anything, was a family. We had been trying for a baby for over a year with no success. The process had been stressful and emotional, but I thought it was something we were navigating together. The big life opportunity, as I saw it, was not a promotion or a new job, but the chance to get real answers. I decided it was time for us to seek medical help, to get tested and figure out what was going on. It was a vulnerable, terrifying step, but I felt it was a necessary one for our future. I brought it up with Faye one evening, suggesting we make an appointment at a fertility clinic. I expected her to be relieved, to see it as a proactive step. Her reaction was strangely negative and dismissive. "A clinic?" she asked, a frown creasing her brow. "Isn't that a little clinical? A little pessimistic?" "I just want answers, Faye," I replied. "I want to know what we're dealing with." "You're being so negative," she said, her voice taking on a sharp, accusatory edge. "We just need to relax and let nature take its course. All this testing and pressure is just going to make it worse." "It's been a year," I said gently. "I think it's time." "You're obsessed," she snapped. "And you're stressing me out. I don't want to talk about it." The conflict was baffling. My desire for a proactive solution to our shared problem was being framed as a personal failing. Cole, my best friend, was my only confidant. I told him about Faye's reaction. "She's just scared, man," he said, putting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Give her time. She's been under a lot of stress." He told me he would talk to her, try to support her. I thought he was being the best friend a guy could ask for. I had no idea he was a wolf tending to the sheep he was actively devouring. Update 1. Faye's resistance to getting tested didn't sit right with me. It felt less like fear and more like avoidance. I decided to take the first step on my own. I made an appointment with a urologist specializing in male fertility, and I did it without telling her. My secret preparation was not for a new life in a new city, but for a truth I desperately needed to uncover. I went through the tests, a series of awkward and humbling procedures. A few weeks later, I was sitting in the doctor's sterile office, the air thick with an unspoken dread. The doctor's words were calm, clinical, and they shattered my world into a million pieces. I was medically sterile. It wasn't a recent development or something that could be fixed. A genetic condition I never knew I had meant that I had been sterile since birth. The dream I had held in my heart for years, the dream of having my own children, was biologically impossible. The grief was a physical blow, a hollow, aching void that opened up inside me. But as the initial wave of sorrow subsided, a cold, terrifying clarity took its place. I had been sterile my entire life, which meant that our entire year of trying for a baby had been a complete and utter lie. The monthly disappointments, the shared tears, her reassurances that, "Oh, it will happen for us," all of it was a performance. She had known, all along, that I could not be the father. My quiet planning shifted from a medical journey to a criminal investigation. If she was trying to get pregnant, it wasn't with me. The first and most obvious suspect was the man she had been spending all her time with, the man who was supposedly supporting her through this difficult time, my best friend, Cole. The betrayal was so monstrous, so unthinkable, that I almost couldn't bring myself to believe it. But the facts were undeniable. I hired a private investigator. I didn't need a full-blown surveillance operation. I just needed confirmation. I needed to know the truth before I confronted them. The investigator was a professional. He was discreet. He put a tracker on her car and monitored her communications. The report he delivered a week later was a thin folder that contained the ugliest truths of my life. Phone records showed hundreds of calls and texts between her and Cole at all hours of the day and night. GPS data showed her car parked at his apartment for hours on end while I was at work, but the final, irrefutable proof was not in the report. It was something I discovered myself. I had set up a shared cloud account for us years ago, one she had forgotten about. It automatically backed up the voicemails on her phone. As I scrolled through them, my heart pounding, I found it. A voicemail she had left for Cole just 2 days prior. Her voice was bright and breathless with excitement. "Cole, it's me," she said. "I just took another test. It's positive. Oh my God, we did it. I'm pregnant. Now we just have to be careful. Declan can never know it's not his. This is it. We're finally going to have the perfect little family." I saved the audio file. I listened to it over and over again until the words were burned into my memory. The grief I had felt over my infertility was now dwarfed by a cold, towering rage. They had not only betrayed me, they had planned to trap me, to have me raise my best friend's child as my own, to build their perfect little family on the foundations of my love and my ignorance. Her 30th birthday was the following weekend. She was planning a huge party at our house. I told her it was a wonderful idea. I offered to help her with the preparations. The stage was set for my revenge. Update 2. The day of Faye's birthday party was one of the strangest of my life. I went through the motions, a ghost at my own life's funeral. I helped her decorate the house. I picked up the cake. I smiled and played the part of the loving, doting boyfriend. She and Cole were in their element, exchanging secret, triumphant glances, believing their deception was a complete success. Our friends, all 50 of them, were oblivious, there to celebrate a milestone. As the party reached its peak, Faye gathered everyone in the living room. She stood in the center of the room, with Cole standing just a few feet away, a proud, knowing smirk on his face. She clinked a glass for attention, her eyes shining with fake, joyful tears. "I have an announcement to make," she said, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. She looked directly at me, a loving smile on her face that made my stomach turn. "This is the best birthday of my life, because I get to share the most wonderful news with all of you, and especially with the man I love." She paused for dramatic effect. "I am finally pregnant," she announced. "We are having the perfect little family you always wanted, my love." The room erupted in applause and cheers. People were hugging me, patting me on the back. I just smiled, a cold, empty smile that didn't reach my eyes. I hugged Faye, whispering, "I'm so happy," in her ear. I shook Cole's hand, looking him directly in the eye as he said, "Congratulations, man. You deserve it." I waited for the applause to die down. I held up a hand for quiet. "Thank you, everyone," I said, my voice steady. "This is incredible news. In fact, I'm so moved, I'd like to share something as well. A little message I think you all need to hear." I took out my phone and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker system we had set up for the party music. And then, I pressed play. Faye's voice, bright and breathless, filled the silent room. "Cole, it's me. I just took another test. It's positive. Oh my God, we did it. I'm pregnant. Now we just have to be careful. Declan can never know it's not his. This is it. We're finally gonna have the perfect little family." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. A collective gasp went through the room. Faye's face collapsed, her joyful mask shattering into a million pieces of pure, abject horror. Cole looked like he had been struck by lightning. My friends, their faces a mixture of confusion and disgust, slowly turned to look at the two of them. The voicemail ended. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. "Get out," I said, my voice low and final. "Both of you, get out of my house." The party ended in a mass exodus of shocked and horrified guests. Faye and Cole stumbled out into the night, their reputations and lives utterly destroyed in the space of 30 seconds. The weeks that followed were a blur of changing locks, packing boxes, and legal consultations. I filed a civil suit against Cole for fraud. I ended a 5-year relationship and a 30-year friendship in a single, brutal act of self-preservation. I was alone, but for the first time in a long time, I was not being lied to. Final update. A year after that disastrous birthday party, my life was unrecognizably different. The house was sold, the lawsuit against Cole was settled, with him being forced to pay back a significant sum for the emotional and financial damages he had caused. Faye had left the state, her social circle in Denver having completely abandoned her. I had quit my job, needing a clean break from the life I had known. I spent 6 months traveling, a long, solitary journey to process the dual betrayal. When I returned to Denver, I knew I couldn't go back to my old life. The grief over my infertility, a wound that had been overshadowed by the betrayal, was still raw. I started attending a support group for men dealing with infertility. It was there, in sharing my story, that I found a new purpose. I decided to use my savings to go back to school and get a degree in counseling, with a focus on helping men and couples navigate the emotional minefield of infertility. It was a path I would have never chosen, but one that felt profoundly meaningful. One evening, I received a call from Cole's parents. They were like a second family to me growing up, and the news of what their son had done had been devastating for them. They asked if I would be willing to meet. We met at a quiet coffee shop. They were heartbroken and deeply ashamed. Declan, his father began, his voice thick with regret. There's nothing we can say that will ever fix what Cole did. But we need to apologize. We raised a son who could do that to his best friend. We don't know where we went wrong, but we are so sorry. They told me they had disowned Cole. He had become a bitter, angry man, blaming everyone but himself for his downfall. Their apology was not an excuse, but an act of shared grief. It was a final, painful piece of closure on a friendship I had cherished for most of my life. I left that coffee shop feeling a sense of peace. The lesson I had learned was a brutal one. Betrayal from a partner is devastating. But betrayal from a best friend, a brother in all but blood, is a wound that changes the landscape of your soul. They didn't just lie to me, they tried to steal my future, to build their happiness on the foundation of my deception. My revenge was not just playing that voicemail. It was surviving. It was in refusing to let their actions define me. It was in taking my deepest wound and transforming it into a source of healing for others. I am in a new relationship now, with a woman I met through my counseling program. It's a relationship built on a foundation of radical honesty. I will never have a biological child, but I have found a new kind of family, a new kind of future. I am at peace, I am fulfilled, and I am finally building a perfect little family of my own making.